The following is a presentation of Learfield IMG College.
This is Duck Insider.
Give it to Verdell. He's got the first down and go! Duck fans start celebrating. Oregon is the 2019 Pac-12 champion. The 2020 Rose Bowl champion.
Richardson, another open three. Good! Duarte dribbles and slams with the right hand. For the third time in the last 5 years, the Ducks are Pac-12 champions. Outright champ.
Holy three. Good! Holy ball. Out Shelley. Three ball. Good! Regular season champions and now Pac-12 tournament champions.
Welcome to Duck Insider.
We're just getting started.
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College. Presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Better banking, local solutions. Live from the Country Financial Studio, here's Joey Mack.
Thank you, and welcome to another busy day on the show. Joe Moorhead, Oregon Offensive Coordinator, is wrapping up a press conference as we go on the air here at 1 o'clock. We'll have some of his comments coming up on this matchup between the Ducks and the Trojans. Friday, 5 o'clock kick on Fox. We will have a 3 o'clock pregame show for you, and, of course, the broadcast right here on the Oregon Sports Network. Men's basketball has added a game. Women's basketball with a schedule update, and Mario Cristobal met with the media last night. We'll have all of his comments for you in just a moment. A couple updates. Tomorrow is signing day for football across the country. Of course, that means that we anticipate a great class under Coach Cristobal. That is coming up tomorrow. That'll be a busy show for us. Also, the Oregon football team will practice tonight. We'll have a couple interviews with Oregon student athletes, and we'll have those for you on the show tomorrow as well. Ducks did practice last night, went through their USC practice, and then today they will practice this evening. This is really going to be a big physical day for Oregon football on the practice field, so that's all upcoming for the Ducks, as the two coordinators, Andy Avalos, already did meet with the media as well. Men's basketball has added a game on Thursday. They will play San Francisco, the Dons, who pulled off a huge upset over then number 4 Virginia earlier this year. They're 5-3 on the season. That was really quite something, a 61-60 win for them over Virginia. And, of course, the Ducks trying to find some games in non-conference, and they've done that. It'll be at 5 o'clock on Thursday, televised on Pac-12 Network. We will have a 4:30 pregame show and a 5 o'clock tip-off for the Ducks and the Dons right here on the Oregon Sports Network. I'll have the call. And women's basketball, we've got a tip time as number 7 Oregon will face Washington. The Huskies on the road at 2 p.m. on Pac-12 Oregon and Pac-12 Washington on the regional networks for Oregon basketball coming up on Saturday. So the men, 5 o'clock Thursday. The women, 2 o'clock Saturday, and keep your eyes and ears open for maybe another men's game, as the Ducks have been trying to add and find non-conference opponents to sharpen their spear, if you will, before taking on the Bruins on the 23rd of December. That's a noon tip-off, by the way. So Oregon football continuing preparations for this great recruiting class and also for USC. Busy week and a short week as well. Mario Cristobal also addressed some rumors that are abound about his future. All of that coming up. And also we're going to hear from Andy Avalos and Jordan Moore joining us from USC. He wears a bunch of different hats for USC. He'll be with us coming up in just a little while. We'll catch up with Jordan Moore, get the scouting report from the other side as well. Without further ado, let's hear from Mario Cristobal. A lot of good stuff from Coach Cristobal in his press conference last night.
Obviously, sudden change today in the middle of our morning walkthrough session when we were informed that we'd be playing on Friday instead of on Saturday. Obviously, a different opponent, so we had to flip the script and we had to get right to work on preparing for a full practice tonight, which is what we're going to do in a little bit right here. So obviously a lot of excitement around the opportunity. At the same time, thoughts and prayers going out to those out in Seattle, because that's a difficult situation and certainly something that we hope to see them, work through and come out healthy on the other side.
Mario, just the process of 24, 48 hours and also going forward, because tiebreakers are not, agreed upon protocols are not. You were a second place team by the way things ended. There's questions about just the integrity of this season, that the first place finishers didn't play the second place finishers, the second place finishers playing for a championship. Your assessment of just what the season has been to the league and the big picture here.
Well, I think the assessment of everyone involved is that you want to settle everything on the field. So, we were set to host the North Division Crown on Saturday on our field. And, our opponent had to cancel. So we never got that opportunity either. And then all of a sudden, we get sudden change today. We got a different type of opportunity. So I don't know if you could use the word integrity as it relates to all this stuff. I think everyone's trying to figure it out. All you would wish for is that everyone gets a chance to do it on the field. And it's difficult because you don't know how it's going to affect you from week to week. You don't know how it's affected different teams from the beginning of the year up until now. I mean, we played games this year in the low 50s in terms of scholarship players available. But that's what we're going to do because it provides the best shot at integrity. So I think everybody's working at it. I think they have found the best solution they could come up with. And we're going to be prepared to play.
Mario, what goes with just the planning of the uncertainty? Like you go into Saturday hoping you're going to play and then you're not, and then you're thinking you're playing Colorado on Sunday, and now you're playing you're playing USC today. Like, how much has this kind of flipped the script, if you will, of just your day-to-day operation?
We're working off of two different scripts. We use one day in its entirety to break down Colorado, the other day to break down USC, and then we're thinking, okay, just in case, let's go through a walkthrough today, thinking that we're playing, at least we're supposed to play on Saturday. And if something happens, if there is some type of news at some point in time today on Monday, then we could just completely flip it and go right to a Tuesday type of practice on a Monday. And that's what we're doing. So is it as deep and as thorough as you would like to on a normal week? It's getting there. It's getting close. You've got to invest every second that you have. And it's going to be, the all-nighters that you got to pull off. And you should be excited about that. The players, they went home, they got some eat, they got some rest, gave us time to really prepare that second practice, because that in itself, that's a monumental task, So I felt like some great flashbacks of drawing cards like a GA back in the day in '97. I thought that was awesome.
Mario, have you or your agent been contacted by anyone at Auburn or a coaching firm regarding their open position? There's a lot of rumors flying, and just asking you.
Yeah, we seem to get a lot of rumors at this time of year, and this is what I can say. I can say that I haven't been contacted, okay? I don't know if my agent being contacted, and I talk to him every single day. And I trust Phil Knight, I trust Rob Mullins, I trust our administration, and I trust people here at Oregon. And as you guys know, we have been working on something when the pandemic first hit, and things kind of stalled and things have picked back up. So I've always been transparent with every single one of you, and I will continue to do that. So hopefully the next couple of days, there's more stuff to talk about as it relates to that. But that in itself right there, hopefully explain to you exactly where things are with me.
Mario, following up on that side, what not specifically Auburn, but when there is this opportunity from a job perspective, what factors are you considering? How long do you need to kind of sit down and figure stuff out? And what does that process look for you personally?
I haven't gone through it quite yet, at least not since I've been over here. So I couldn't tell you. I know that we have an awesome thing going. We've got an unbelievable class going. And I think that when people speculate and start putting rumors out there, a lot of times people try to take that and get it to fit their narrative, which is try to affect recruiting class at Oregon, try to spin a story, okay? And like I said earlier, like I said right now, and like I'll say tomorrow, I've been honest with you. I'll continue being honest with you. Things are being worked out, and I have full trust in the administration here that things are going to be worked out and that I'll be coaching here. So,
Mario, how would you kind of compare the craziness of this week to 3 years ago when you just got the job? There was the early signing day. You were at the Vegas Bowl. Now you've got multiple opponents, signing day, trying to get ready for that, and putting this class together all virtually.
Yeah, I don't think it's any comparison, even though this does have its challenges. But that was tough there. Not only did you have to pull the class together, half the staff was in, the other half was out. Your operational staff you had to know who was doing what. You had an entire team in Las Vegas trying to prepare for a really good opponent. So, and remember, we had to actually visit at night, so we had to catch flights Vegas to Southern California and get back about 2 or 3 in the morning, get ready for morning practice. So that was pretty challenging. It was fun, tremendous learning experience. This one, you feel, with our class, for the most part, already intact, identified, and committed, we expect to have a tremendous signing day. So it's a little bit different, but with practice and preparation for practice eating up a lot of time, it pulls you away from those contacts and those phone conversations.
Mario, just in terms of, again, you can't make up for the time lost, but how much time was lost given that you're thinking about Saturday and one opponent, then it's one day less on that end, and then you were thinking on one opponent. So how much time was lost in terms of prep for USC? Because, they could say the same thing. They said they were claiming that they were preparing for Washington. So,
yeah, I think both teams lose 2 days, but you make up most of it between what you have prepared for, because both teams were preparing for 2 teams, and what you've been able to walk through, introduce, and any type of carryover. You just got to make it up without make it physically taxing on the players. You can't do double practices. That's not going to work, right? But you got to make sure the mental part of it, the walkthroughs, everything else that goes with it, keeps everybody, on pace to be prepared for the game on Friday.
Oregon football head coach Mario Cristobal. We've got a lot more coming from him in just a little while. It's Duck Insider presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Still to come, get the scouting report on USC from Jordan Moore from their broadcast crew. Andy Avalos and Joe Moorhead, the Oregon coordinators, have just wrapped up talking to the media, and more from Coach Cristobal right after this. Stick with us. Back to the Country Financial Studio next on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
As my family continued to grow, I realized I'd have to replace my beloved Jeep with something that has, well, more seats. I'm Jason Hines, Country Financial Rep and father of 7. Whether you're upgrading from your sporty ride with no room for a car seat or finally replacing your well-loved beater that still has a cassette player, you'll want the right protection for your new car. Work with a Country Financial Rep like me and get the protection you need at a price you can afford. Learn more at TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
Don't go anywhere. Duck Insider continues after these messages on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Learfield IMG College.
Steven.
Who said that?
Me, down here.
Ugh, what are you, a yellow booger?
I'm a banana slug, Steven.
What are you doing in my room?
I'm your sense of adventure. It's been a long time since we've had an adventure in the forest.
Mom took me to the forest last year.
I'm a slug, Steven. It took me a long time to get here.
You're right. I should get out.
Yeah, the forest is not that far away.
Hey, Mom!
Come to the forest where the more adventurous you lives. Check out discovertheforest.org for cool places nearby. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
It's important to buckle up your kids.
I know.
Sometimes car seats can be complicated.
I know.
And if your child's in the wrong seat and you get into a crash,
I know.
It could lead to a serious injury.
I know.
So you're 100% sure you have the right car seat for your child's age and size?
I don't know.
Don't think you know. Know you know. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Make sure you have the right car seat. Visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joey Mack inside the Country Financial Studio. Tons of interviews for you to get to. Going to talk with USC's Jordan Moore from their broadcast crew coming up. Get the scouting report on the Trojans. And let's continue, though, hearing from Mario Cristobal. Some of his thoughts heading into a frantic schedule of a week and Friday's matchup, 5 o'clock on Fox. Ducks and Trojans for the Pac-12 title. More with Coach Cristobal.
Hey, Coach, just wanted updates on guys like David Davis, Dante Manning, Brian Addison, Devin Williams, just the other – Noah Sewell and Drew Mathis, the other unavailable guys from the Cal game.
Sure. Devin is good to go. Noah, I'll go one by one on these if I have them in the right order here. Noah Sewell is good to go. Cam McCormick, we're still evaluating. We thought he was ready. We're not quite there yet. Spencer Webb is good to go. Drew Mathis is good to go. Adrian Jackson's got a good chance to play this week. He was a little bit banged up. I don't even know if you mentioned him, but just giving you whatever I got. Dante Manning, very hopeful, has had a really good week so far. David Davis will be unavailable. So I think that's everybody unless there's somebody I missed.
USC's offense is one of the better offenses in the conference, as well as yourself. Like, what's just the challenges of you feel like of stopping this team and the growth in Keaton Slovis from year one to now year two?
Yeah, well, I think what you see on tape, you see the most talented team you'll see in the conference, explosive at all positions, and a very big physical offensive line. Just a tremendous amount of poise and accuracy and command of the offense by their quarterback. Those in those late comebacks, and how just in the very difficult situations, as cool as can be, just performing and executing at a really high level to remain undefeated. So he's complemented by a great supporting cast. They call a great game. They coach it really well. A tremendous operation.
Mario, what have you learned about your team the last 72 hours or so, from the day where Washington game gets canceled, that you're supposed to play Colorado, to the quick turnaround, and now you have a chance to win a Pac-12 championship and repeat? What have you learned about your guys?
I think we've learned all year that the adaptability and the resiliency has to show in moments like this, and that that you can't take anything for granted, and certainly that life is just not fair. And sometimes it works in your favor, and sometimes it doesn't. And there's absolutely zero sense or time to sit around and complain about it and try to talk yourself into being in a better situation or a better position. You know, you usually get what you earn. Every now and then you might, things might work out in your favor, might come your way. And when they do, what a shame it would be if you're not prepared for that moment. So all in all the things that you always stress about the culture and doing things a certain way to be able to perform and play and execute at the highest level and do things right on and off the field and maintain protocol so you could field the team on a weekly basis to the best of your ability. Sometimes it's out of your control. All those things come into play, and they're excited and they're grateful. They recognize the opportunity and the situation. They respect it. And I think both those things are really important.
Mario, kind of a little bit of what Eric was talking about. Was there a boomerang effect? They go into Saturday knowing they're going to play for a North Division title. That game's canceled. Then they play Colorado. That's scheduled. And then Washington. Was there any down from them mentally and then up again knowing that they're going to play for the conference crown?
I don't think there was a down. I'm sure that there's an added, of course, juice, I guess you might say, when you realize that you're playing now for the championship, second year in a row. But in terms of preparing for Colorado, we watch Colorado on film. They know they're a great football team. That's really a couple plays away from being undefeated. So they were preparing for a very physical matchup, a real athletic team, that's got some really good players and coached really well. So the level of preparation and the urgency was really high in preparation for Colorado. But today, in the middle of our walkthrough, we stopped them and brought everybody up so we could even just buy an extra 25 minutes for the coaches to go and start preparing, and get the guys a little time off, get something to eat, and come back and get ready to go to work. So I hope that answers your question. It kind of went off there on a little bit of a tangent there, buddy.
Mario, to the matchup with their defense, obviously there's quite a bit of familiarity there between yourself and Todd, and obviously with Dante being there. It's a different offense for you guys, but from a maintenance of not just the challenge in terms of talent first, but second of communication, of signals in a short week, what goes into that? Because there's some people over there who know you guys.
Absolutely. You got to change things up. You got to be different because that's part of the game now, right? Espionage. Getting signals. Not so much that everyone knows your plays, but, there are people always trying to tell if you're, running, throwing, whatever it may be. So you've got to be meticulously preparing for situations like that, in a conference where there's so much lateral movement and guys going to competitor I think every team is always on edge about that kind of stuff, about sensitive material. So all that's taken into account as we prepare.
Mario, how would you kind of describe the bounce your program got from last year's game against USC and plus the Rose Bowl? And how would you characterize this opportunity that's been given to you guys to try to repeat in Los Angeles against the Trojans?
How would I characterize the bounce? These opportunities are hard to come by now, right? You spend, not that we had an entire off season, right? We didn't. Not that we were able to have a full camp. We certainly did not. But at the end of the season, you always want to be playing for a championship, right? Or you want to be in that conversation. And, you know, we find ourselves in that situation in a crazy manner, obviously. But I want to say again, last week was crazy in itself because we were set to play and put ourselves in a position to play for the North Division, and had that stripped from us to only come back a week later and be in a position where that stuff skipped. So, you know, I really feel like I should say that for the entire North Division, you know, you wish that you could find a way to get everybody to play. Because I honestly don't think it's fair to anybody. It's not fair to us, but it's not fair to Washington, and it's not fair to Stanford. It's not fair to the rest of the guys, you know. But it's here, and no one needs to apologize for that. Instead, grateful for the opportunity. Everybody's excited about this. Whether it was a pandemic year or not, you get the opportunity to play for the Pac-12 championship. You're grateful, and you are eagerly anticipating the opportunity to prepare the entire week to make sure you can play at your very best.
Mario, obviously, little different circumstances now, but let's consider this last week kind of like an extended bye week. From your experience when you're coming off of disappointments and losses, is it easier to come out of it directly and kind of take it head on, or is it beneficial to have a little more time to prepare for that next game?
Oh, there's no substitute for truthful conversations, for honesty, for confrontation in the right kind of way, respectful confrontation, confront the man, making sure that you always apply the finest and the best form of respect, which is truth and honesty, to make sure that guys and all of us, when I say guys, coaches, admit, you know, our entire organization, to have the opportunity to improve, right? And when you have that time, yeah, you know, you have a couple of extra days, but I don't think you change your approach. There's no, you know, right is right and good is good, whether you win or whether you lose. And when you lose a football game, the same deep dive that you take when you win has to be done, and the same type of assessment has to be done. You just got to correct it or it'll happen again. So all in all, you know, our process and, you know, the way we go about things are always going to be very, very direct, very blunt, very honest.
That's Mario Cristobal, the Oregon football head coach, meeting with the media last night, getting ready for more preparation for USC. Friday, 5 o'clock, Ducks and Trojans on Fox. We'll have a 3 o'clock pregame show for you across the Oregon Sports Network. And up next, we're going to chat with Jordan Moore from the USC side of things. Get the view from Los Angeles with a member of their broadcast crew. Stick around. We'll go deep dive on the Duck opponent next on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
This football season, prepare your taste buds for the most iconic sports watching drink of all time, Pepsi. With refreshing deliciousness specially formulated to keep your eye on the ball and mouth-watering fizziness to help you power through game day, Pepsi has everything you need to start strong.
I used to care when Mike cheered so hard he spilled nacho cheese on my carpet, but thanks to Pepsi, even Mike can't ruin my football party.
So this football season, make Pepsi your go-to game day drink, because it's the only drink made for football watching. Pepsi, that's what I like.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
Duck Insider continues after this timeout on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Most of my family, they never graduated high school, so I'm trying to break that barrier. My daughter Brooklyn was also a motivation for me to go back to school. Every day after work, went straight to school, and it paid off.
At age 26, Kareem finished his high school diploma.
I could not have done it alone. I see the future is really bright for me.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
You took the first step and quit smoking, but even former smokers may still be at risk for lung cancer. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know about a new low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early. It takes only 60 seconds and could save your life. You took the first step, now take the next. Visit SaveByTheScan.org for a simple quiz to see if you're eligible and talk to your doctor about screening. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Back on Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joey Mack with you inside the Country Financial Studio. Oregon Football Coaches Show presented by Carl's Jr. coming up tomorrow. 7 o'clock, George Moore, our guest, and Coach Cristobal will join Jerry and Jorgie across the Oregon Sports Network at 7 o'clock. And you can watch the show on the Oregon Football Facebook, Oregon Football Twitter, and, of course, on the Go Ducks YouTube page as well as we get our final Coaches Show of the season ready to go for you on Wednesday. It's also going to be signing day. Busy day tomorrow, and we'll catch all of you up on that on tomorrow's edition of Duck Insider as well. Meanwhile, we now zero in via the University of Oregon Alumni Association guest line, Jordan Moore. He's the radio voice of men's basketball for the Trojans, roams the sidelines, or whatever the sidelines are called now, for the football broadcasts, and also in charge of a few other things at USC. Actually has had a very similar career path to myself, and we got a chance to catch up with him a little bit earlier today, getting the scouting report from the other side with Jordan Moore of USC. Let's talk a little bit about the Trojans. Get the view from the other side. And, my first question for Jordan Moore, who's joining us. Jordan, normally you're on the sidelines like me for these football broadcasts. Where have you been? Because we've been joking that it's our Toyota among the cardboard cutouts in the stands and sometimes on the concourse microphone rather than the Toyota sideline microphone. Where have you been this season?
Yeah, I was so excited last week because at the Rose Bowl, they actually let me get close to the sideline. I was a near sideline reporter, so I was basically front row right behind the bench. So that was as close as I've been. For home games, I'm sort of up a level in the lower suites area. And then road games, unfortunately, we haven't been on the road. So other than Pasadena, so it hasn't been ideal, but it feels like any game that goes off is a miracle. So I don't complain. I'm
with you on that front. Jordan Moore, I guess you can follow him on Twitter at MooreSports, 2 O's, by the way. That's a play on the last name. Well done. I'm impressed. And this is I have to tell you, Jordan, because I should have introduced you properly as not just the football sideline guy, but Jordan also has a day job where he's not just a radio schmuck like us. He's actually the assistant athletic director for social media and content development. So you wear multiple hats for the Trojans.
Yeah, they keep me busy, and like you, men's basketball voice too. So it is a full multimedia experience and fun week, when you have signing day coming up on Wednesday, and then you've got Pac-12 championship on Friday. We didn't have a whole lot to do in May and June, but they packed it all into December.
Yeah, funny how that happens. Jordan, I'm curious because you and I actually have a lot of similarities, and I've never gotten a chance to talk to you about this. And somebody who comes on the show for the first time, we have a rule. You have to tell your 2-minute life story of how you got to where you are.
I think it's pretty normal from a broadcasting standpoint. I'm an East Coaster. I'm from New Jersey, cross country to go to USC. Met my wife at USC and never left this beautiful city of Los Angeles. But I went into it, as many broadcasters do, started minor league baseball. I think every company or team I worked for before USC doesn't exist anymore. So I might be bad luck in that way. And sometimes the way things are going with college athletics, I wonder if the same will be true at this stop. But I've been at SC for 10 years now and worked my way up a little bit in the broadcasting side of it and have always sort of had this social media gig. So it's been an interesting 10 years, certainly. Right now, as you mentioned, just trying to do everything at once.
Yeah, I love it. Well, that's cool to see. I was looking into before we had you on. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to ask him about his 2-minute life story because this is just what we do on the show. And what advice do you give to people who are students who are contemplating getting into this world? Are you like me? Do you try to talk them out of it?
Well, I do try to talk them out. I don't try to talk them out of broadcasting. I think broadcasting is really hard, though. So I think it's fair to be real about it. I actually often try to talk them into the social media side. Yep. I just think that for young people, the more of a multimedia background that they can have and sort of the more respect they get. I mean, I think, as you know, it's very hard in your 20s, being a broadcaster. It's very hard in your 20s, I think, in most professions, right? They sort of make you work up from the mailroom. But social media is one of those fun jobs where they look at the 22-year-old and they go, oh, that person knows more than I do. And so they actually give the 20-year-olds respect. So I do try to steer many of them to go into that route. The broadcasting world, as you know, is a little bit more of a difficult road to travel, and that doesn't necessarily work out for everybody.
I think it's good advice. I always tell people in this profession anymore, you got to be a jack of all trades and a master of none, for sure. Jordan Moore, our guest. I just wanted to talk with you a little bit about the business first, because this is what we get to do and have fun on the show. All right, now, meanwhile, what's USC's schedule like this week? Because I know Coach Helton meets with the media yesterday morning, and he goes, well, we're kind of preparing for two opponents. Now you're preparing for just one opponent, very similar, I'm sure, to the Ducks, where everything's just shifted around and changed. Tell us about the schedule and just the changes for the week for the Trojans.
Yeah, I talked to him yesterday, Monday on his coach's show, and it did sound like they were basically in the morning still preparing for Washington as the primary opponent. They found out around lunchtime that Oregon was going to be the opponent. I think they had a portion of their staff working on an Oregon scouting report. And then the practice wasn't until the evening. So they did start to implement some of their game plan for Oregon. It's a shortened week, right, to add to everything else. So yesterday was what we would call a Tuesday practice, which is typically the most physical and most important day of practice during the week. So I think they were happy they were able to get some of the Oregon work done, and now can really drill down on one opponent. So I'm glad that the Pac-12 or Washington, whoever it was, ultimately made a quicker decision than was feared. I think some people were saying, hey, we might not find out till Thursday morning, which would have been pretty silly. And now I think you have full week with both teams knowing their opponent, and we'll play ball on Friday.
Yeah, I honestly, obviously Washington's a rival, but I feel for what's happening to them. And their athletic director, Jennifer Cohen, said, hey, we were never going to wait. They understood it, and I thought that was pretty classy move from Washington. Jimmy Lake had some great things to say about the situation, if you can say great things about this situation. Jordan Moore, our guest, joining us from USC. Jordan, there's always a lot of pressure around USC football to win. Clay Helton's done that this year. What were the expectations heading into this season, and maybe heading into our first of 3 schedules that we ended up having? What were the expectations for the Trojans this year? And there's always a lot of pressure on a head coach there.
Well, they returned a ton. They lost really, I think, ultimately 3 starters from last year's team, or I guess it turned out to be 4, with some opt-outs. So they returned a ton of talent. So the expectations were high. With that said, the initial schedule was murder. It's going to open with Alabama, and if we're just being quite honest, I think the USC program is certainly ascending right now, but do I think it's ascending to Alabama level? Probably not. And then, they would have had Notre Dame on there too, of course. We played Notre Dame every year, other than a couple of years during World War II. So, turns out it's an undefeated Notre Dame team. So you just took off 2 of maybe the top 2 teams in the country right now. And so things changed with the schedule, and I think expectations changed with it. Once you saw sort of a Pac-12 only schedule, things certainly opened up for the Trojans, and talent-wise, I think they've been better than their opponents. And when you get into this part of the schedule, Pac-12 South in particular, the fans expect to win games. And they haven't won them in dominant fashion, all of them. They have certainly left it late in 3 of the 5. But I think this final one has sort of turned the tide a little bit in terms of where the fans are at, and just, hey, this is kind of a fun team to root for. Keaton Slovis and this receiving core is just never out of a game, and you really trust them with the ball in that 2-minute situation. They've done it 3 times now. And so, I do think actually the fans, I felt for the first time this week, are really getting behind this team.
Jordan Moore joining us for USC via the University of Oregon Alumni Association guest line. More coming up. We're going to talk about that offense, defense, and keys to a game. If USC is going to win, what's going to have to happen? We continue with Jordan Moore after this. Stick with us. It's Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. The view from L.A. Back after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
After 2 years of construction, my wife and I finally moved into our dream home. So when a bathtub fixture broke, causing major water damage, I was glad we had the home insurance protection we needed. How do you know your home is protected? Talk to a Country Financial rep like me, Nick Simon. We can help you understand your options and select coverages to meet your needs. Then if something happens to your home, you won't have any surprises. Need the right coverage for your home but not sure where to start? Visit TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local country representative.
All it takes is one drop to make a wave. One beat to inspire a track. One spark to get creativity flowing. With every drop, LifeWater refreshes your mind and restores your body. Purified water, pH balanced with electrolytes for taste. Designed with original works of art on every bottle. Let us be your source of inspiration. LifeWater, the feel-good water.
Duck Insider, your home for the latest news on Oregon athletics. This is the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Steven.
Who said that?
Me, down here.
Ugh, what are you, a yellow booger?
I'm a banana slug, Steven.
What are you doing in my room?
I'm your sense of adventure. It's been a long time since we've had an adventure in the forest.
Mom took me to the forest last year.
I'm a slug, Steven. It took me a long time to get here.
You're right. I should get out.
Yeah, the forest is not that far away.
Hey, Mom!
Come to the forest where the more adventurous you lives. Check out discovertheforest.org for cool places nearby. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
It's important to buckle up your kids.
I know.
Sometimes car seats can be complicated.
I know.
And if your child's in the wrong seat and you get into a crash,
I know.
it could lead to a serious injury.
I know.
So you're 100% sure you have the right car seat for your child's age and size?
I don't know.
Don't think you know. Know you know. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Make sure you have the right car seat. Visit safercar.gov/the-right seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Welcome back inside the Country Financial Studio. Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Going to continue with Jordan Moore from USC in a moment. Want to answer a question from Jeff as he was wondering how come this game wasn't being played in Las Vegas. Well, the Pac-12, when all this started, made an agreement to extend the made an addendum to the agreement to extend it by a year with the Las Vegas Raiders and making sure that the teams didn't have to travel as much. Home hosted just made the most sense, so the Pac-12 made that decision a while ago. Thought it was interesting, the question, too, coming from, now I lost it, but asking about the cutouts for USC. Like, does USC get to keep their cutouts in there when it's a Pac-12 controlled game? I actually don't know. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. So this game coming up inside the Coliseum down in Los Angeles. 5 o'clock kickoff, Ducks and Trojans for the Pac-12 title. We continue getting the scouting report from the other side with Jordan Moore from the broadcast crew for USC. I got to ask you a little bit about Keaton Slovis. I mean, I think a lot of people would agree he's probably the best quarterback in the conference heading into this season. Tyler Shuck has put up some great numbers, but the Ducks offense has lost him a couple games. What is the report on Keaton Slovis? How good is this guy?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think he's phenomenal. I mean, obviously poise, is sort of the thing that's hard to quantify, but he's shown that in spades with the comeback victories, and he has 15 touchdowns in his career to no interceptions in the fourth quarter. So his fourth quarter passing has been tremendous. His skill set, he's not this big prototypical pocket passer like we have seen at times at USC, and we see somebody like Davis Mills at Stanford now. I was watching Baker Mayfield deal on Monday Night Football last night, and I think that's a decent comp for Keaton. I think he's accurate. I think he's mobile, but more mobile in the passing game than he is mobile as a runner. He has great feet, and he just has that same sort of energetic, positive personality. Gutsy kid. I mean, the story came out that he called an audible on the last play of the UCLA game. Supposed to be a run. Looked like they were going to just try to run the clock out and kick a game-winning field goal, and he just went for it, threw it up to Amon-Ra, and went for the game-winning touchdown instead. So I think he's got a little bit of that gambler in him, gunslinger, and he has been fun to watch. But I think his number one skill is accuracy. I think he's a really accurate quarterback.
Yeah, throwing 70% completion. I think you'll take that any day of the week in the Pac-12 and any Power 5 conference. Jordan Moore, our guest, joining us from USC. He'll be roaming the almost sidelines.
Roaming the concourse.
Roaming the concourse. There you go, for the broadcast crew on the USC side. How much credit does Graham Harrell deserve as the offensive coordinator? I mean, a talented wide receiver core, no doubt about that. But how much credit does he deserve for some of these late game comebacks and the way the offense has performed?
I've been a big fan of Graham Harrell since he got here last year. Ultimately, I think USC has spent a lot of the last decade trying to recapture the Pete Carroll era. And I think that Graham Harrell was the first true deviation from that. And while that doesn't, a lot of USC fans still want to just be a power football team. They want to go all the way, forget Pete Carroll, they want to go all the way back to John McKay. Harrell, I think, has leaned into the strengths of his team, which is that this program has rolled in quarterbacks for 20 years now, an NFL quarterback every year for 20 years. And, most programs have trouble finding quarterbacks. And then you look at these receivers, and I would say this year, the 3 best receivers in the league are probably all on the Trojans team. So that's the strength of your team right there. So what do? They throw the ball, and they throw it great. They throw it a lot. They're better when they're also running too, and they were able to run it last week. And sometimes I think they get a little bit out of whack. But for the most part, they stay in pass protection and they sling it around and they score a lot of points. And, I've been happy with the offense the last couple of years. And I think they have a bright future under Graham Harrell because they have a true identity. They know who they want to be, even if it's not necessarily who the fans want them to be.
You talked about some of these close games. They've given up some points on the defensive side. What's the report on the defense this year?
Yeah, I actually think the defense has made great strides. Last week wasn't its best week, though. I mean, they kind of carried the team, though, for a few weeks there. It's probably the most talented defense that the team has had in years. I think there's pros at every level of it. Talanoa Hufanga will certainly be a candidate for Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year, so they're still giving out all those awards. He's been tremendous, interceptions in 4 straight games. He's got a lot of Troy Polamalu in his game, and he's sort of a similar background. Troy was a small school guy from up where you guys are, and Talanoa's just from down the road in Corvallis. So not a big time. He was a big time prospect. Everyone knew he was good, but when you don't play that big time high school football, you're a little under the radar. And he's come here and just been fantastic. So he's really led the way. It's a great secondary. Dante Williams comes in from Oregon. I think he's given that Trojan secondary a lot more swagger than it had the last few years. And, the line's been better than it's been good. I mean, it's been really, Marlon Tuipulotu's having a really nice senior season, and Drake Jackson's a special talent too. So I really think there's pros at every level. And Todd Orlando's coming as the defensive coordinator, and I think he's focused a little bit more on attitude and energy than he has on scheme. I think the scheme is actually somewhat similar to what USC was running under Pendergast, but it just has a little bit more of an attitude to it, and in the way they're playing.
Dante Williams certainly brings some attitude. I can tell you that from experience.
He does, and I think that was his goal. I mean, he knew that there was talent here. I mean, all these corners are 4- and 5-star guys, but he's just trying to bring that 5-star swagger with him.
Makes sense. All right, keys to the game here. USC wins if.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. My keys to the game, certainly I think what USC has done well this year is turnovers, both forcing them and protecting it. USC has forced the second most turnovers per game, got 3 more last week. And so I think this Oregon offense, which statistically has been the best in the conference this year and is really balanced, the Trojans will need to stop the run, but I think they'll need to get off the field by making some plays. So I think that's a major factor. And then when USC has the football, I think they need to be able to exploit the outside more so than they did last year. I thought, Oregon in that game in the Coliseum, it was almost like USC's offense tired out. It felt like, USC was moving the ball early on. The Trojans were on the field for a ton. They had a ton of plays in that game. But they just sort of ran out of energy and juice as that game went on, and it was Oregon's defense making plays. So, I think if Oregon, which has athletes to challenge USC, and most opponents do not in this league, if they do challenge the Trojans athletes need to win those battles.
Jordan Moore will be on the broadcast on the USC side. 5 o'clock kickoff of the Pac-12 championship game, the oddest Pac-12 championship game that I've ever seen. There's no doubt about that. Lastly, you're the voice of the men's basketball team, as we alluded to. What's the report on Andy Enfield's squad this year?
Yeah, I mean, they're just so bummed that they just got shut down. We were supposed to play Stanford on Sunday. I was really looking forward to that game. But, you know, the short report is that USC has Evan Mobley, who right now, to be honest, looks like the best player in program history. I mean, I know it's 5 games or whatever it's been. He's phenomenal. I mean, truly phenomenal. He will not have to wait long on draft night to hear his name be called. He is such a skilled big man. He's exactly what the NBA is looking for. But, you know, sometimes you worry, oh, hey, guy's a really good project. He'll be good in the pros, but maybe he doesn't dominate the college level. He has been – they have run everything through him. He has controlled every game at the offensive and defensive end so far, hasn't put a dud up yet. So, he's the headliner. I think it's a good team, though. I really do. We're picked to finish 6th. I think it's probably more like a top 4 team in the Pac-12 if they live up to expectations. Again, like everything, I just hope that they have enough time to dig in and play the season and stay healthy and all the rest of it, because I do think there's some fun games to be had at the top of the Pac-12. And I've been watching Oregon a ton. The Rutgers transfer looks phenomenal. I think there's some really good games out there. I just hope they get to play them.
Yeah, me too. Jordan Moore, I'm with you. And here's to hopefully seeing you at an arena in person sooner than later. Hopefully we're going to get back to that eventually. But
Someday.
yeah. You know, I picked USC 4th in the preseason poll for whatever that's worth. I've got a lot of faith in Coach Enfield.
I think that's about right, yeah.
We'll see. Jordan Moore, he's the voice of USC basketball, going to be roaming the almost sidelines for football. And we'll catch up with you again, my friend. Thanks for taking the time. Always appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Andy Enfield's got a pretty good team. I'm telling you, I think Evan Mobley is as good as you're going to see across the country. If you haven't got a chance to see him play, do so. The Trojans, though, currently on a pause with their basketball program as we continue to look around the Pac-12 and getting ready for Oregon men's basketball to now face a couple more non-conference opponents, maybe a couple more non-conference opponents, one for sure, and then UCLA coming up on Wednesday. My thanks to Jordan Moore, though, for joining us via the University of Oregon Alumni Association guest line, talking a little bit about USC. Adrian asking, any idea what Oregon will wear on Friday? I actually do not know yet. That's not just me waiting for announcement. I actually don't know. We'll see. And this was funny. JL said Uncle Phil should start the Nike Sports Network, so it would be ENSN. Promote West Coast bias. I got a kick out of that. I did get a kick out of that. And I saw another question. It is on still. The Rose Bowl is still looking like it's going to be a CFP playoff, but obviously a lot of things can change very quickly in this landscape. Up next, we're going to hear from the defensive coordinator for the Ducks, Andy Avalos. We'll zero in on how do you slow down that Trojan offense next on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
As my family continued to grow, I realized I'd have to replace my beloved Jeep with something that has, well, more seats. I'm Jason Hines, Country Financial Rep and father of 7. Whether you're upgrading from your sporty ride with no room for a car seat or finally replacing your well-loved beater that still has a cassette player, you'll want the right protection for your new car. Work with a Country Financial Rep like me and get the protection you need at a price you can afford. Learn more at TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
This is Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Listen and imagine. It takes 5 seconds to send a text, and for those 5 seconds, you're driving blind. Life is worth more than a text. Stay alive. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Everybody buckle up. Buckle up.
Let's go.
Buckle up.
Can we go to the store? Mom,
buckle
can we get
up.
some ice cream?
Everybody, buckle up.
A lot goes on in the car, but you're in control. So only move when you hear the click that says they're buckled in. Never give up until they buckle up. Learn more at safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Back on Doug Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joey Mack inside the Country Financial Studio. Jay asking, did the team do anything for Senior Day that was supposed to be last Saturday? Actually, the team's Senior Day was not going to be like your traditional Senior Day because there's so many variables and questions with eligibility, this being a free year of eligibility. There actually wasn't as much planned as would have been a normal Senior Day Saturday inside Autzen Stadium. Up next, we've got Andy Avalos, Oregon defensive coordinator. Every assistant coach interview this year brought to you by the Willamette Valley Cancer Institute and Research Center. Fight like a duck with cancer care you can count on. Andy Avalos meeting with the media.
Andy, obviously a very talented receiving core and a short week to prepare for him. What does it mean to have a little bit of replenished depth to go about that, and how do you go about trying to contain such a deep receiving core?
There's no question. Very talented, inside, outside, a lot of length, speed, and so obviously it comes down to playing with great technique, being able to know where our help is, be able to adjust and move around pre-snap. You know, obviously the game is they're very talented at the wide receiver group. The game always starts regardless is up front. You know, so we've got to do a great job up front. Handling the run game and some of the different things that they're doing this year opposed to what they did last year.
Coach, you know, it's talking about the USC passing game. You know, not only do they have a lot of great wide receivers, but also they like to go deep a lot. They're averaging like 7 deep shots over 20 yards per game. So how do you keep them underneath you and then also contain all that underneath stuff? Kind of a tough combination.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, it's got to be a good balance, you know, of how you're playing on the perimeter, how you're playing inside, the types of coverages you're playing. There's got to be a balance, you know, and they're talented in terms of inefficient going deep, like you said, and obviously the underneath pass game, their efficiency is pretty high as well. So it's got to be a balance of what we're doing on defense.
Yeah, Andy, you guys were preparing for Colorado originally, who's a vastly different team than USC. I guess just were you preparing for both, and how were you handling the uncertainty of who you were preparing for? Because they're totally different teams.
Yes, no question. Matt, we you know, through the course of last week, we were starting to work on both, and obviously we were focused on Colorado, and we were going, you know, full speed ahead on that. But behind the scenes, there were some late hours work, obviously, to do some prep in the event that this situation arose, and here we are now. And the coaches did a tremendous job yesterday transitioning and getting ourselves ready to practice last night, and the players did an unbelievable job handling the situation. It's been, you know, throw it in line with everything else this year. There's challenges that pop up, and it's all about how you respond, you know, how you direct your emotions and your focus. And the guys did an unbelievable job of that last night. You know, obviously the coach is putting it together, and so we got to continue on with that.
Andy, how would you describe the range of emotions for your players from having their rivalry game with Washington canceled to getting ready for Colorado, and then the opportunity all of a sudden to, you know, play for the Pac-12 championship?
Yeah, we've been through a few game plans here in the last week that we didn't get to use, and you know, I think they were very excited when this opportunity arose. I know they were very excited. You can see the urgency in them, and again how they responded. And yesterday, and transitioning and coming back, you know, the way they worked last night was pretty impressive. The attention to detail, and so that's got to continue on.
Andy, you guys did a good job last year against Keaton Slovis. I think the most interceptions he's thrown to date. Where have you seen the most growth since then? Obviously, this year he's been really, really solid for them.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, as the games go on, he gets really comfortable in the games. Obviously, they've had some come from behind wins or some last quarter wins there. And so as the games go on and he sees what defenses are doing, he's able to adjust and adapt, and obviously the coaching staff as well. And so you can see the growth there. That tells us that he is, you know, he feels much more comfortable with the offense, how to operate it based off of what defenses are giving him.
With signing day tomorrow, I know you can't talk about the prospects, but what has the year been like for you guys having to recruit in this unprecedented year and just as a staff working through the process?
Unique, you know, that you got to find different ways. You got to adapt, you got to adjust. And, you know, we're extremely excited about the class that we are putting together and the young men that will be joining this program shortly. It's quite frankly been a long process, being that we've had to do it in unique ways. But, as always, the days are long, the weeks are long, but next thing you know, you start stacking up months, and here we are on the eve of signing day. And so we're extremely excited about these families, these young men that will be joining Oregon.
We talk about the receiving corps or their penchant for explosiveness, Andy. You guys, each of the last 2 years, have kept the lid on the coverage really well. And even this year, without a Javon or a Thomas or Brady, who has been most key to that success this season for you guys, where you're keeping the lid on the coverage, again, really, really well?
We want to make offenses earn it and go down the field. And obviously that starts with understanding where our help is. And on the outside, the corners understanding where their help is, what type of leverage they have. Obviously, a guy in the middle of the field that has done a tremendous job is Verone. Verone has been unbelievable for us this year, and obviously we'll need him to continue to be so. And not only in terms of his play, but his leadership and how he handles the pre-snap, how he operates as a quarterback back there.
Good stuff from Andy Avalos, Oregon defensive coordinator, talking a bit about the struggles of signing day and slowing down that USC offense. We'll hear a little bit more from him coming up tomorrow, in addition to Oregon offensive coordinator Joe Moorhead. Packed show. My thanks to Jordan Moore for joining us from USC, and Mario Cristobal for his comments last night. Every assistant coach interview brought to you by WVCI. Fight like a duck. With cancer care you can count on. Tobias asking where the game's being played. Coliseum. Los Angeles. Whew. It's weird. Everything just feels like a bit of a whirlwind, but the Ducks are going to play in Los Angeles at the Coliseum coming up 5 o'clock on Friday, televised on Fox. We'll have the broadcast on the radio side on the Oregon Sports Network, 3 o'clock pregame show with Terry Johns. It will be a little bit different having a hosted championship game by a home team, but really, apart from the one Pac-12 championship that was hosted at Autzen, it's not like it's been a packed house for the championship games in the Bay Area. So maybe this will actually feel kind of normal for a championship game. Also, today, and this is a great way to end the show, we're pleased to add Crumble Cookies to our list of partners. I'm personally very excited about this. This means more cookies in the studio. Come see them in Eugene off Coburg Road, a rotating menu of 120-plus flavors that change out weekly. They make you come back to see what they've got. Yeah. Ducks are going to practice tonight. We'll talk to you tomorrow after hearing from some student athletes and also the coordinator. See you tomorrow.
Most of my family, they never graduated high school, so I'm trying to break that barrier. My daughter, Brooklyn, was also a motivation for me to go back to school. Every day after work, went straight to school, and it paid off.
At age 26, Kareem finished his high school diploma.
I could not have done it alone. I see the future is really bright for me.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult